everybody. Welcome to our class. This class is audio podcast. So if you can't see me, it's because it's audio. And this class is on how to be God's agent. You know, one of the most important things in life is that we are all here on a mission. Today I was giving a class, and the question was how to be happy. Many people are struggling with this idea of being happy. But really, being happy is not such a complicated thing. The first and most important thing about being happy is knowing that you are an agent of God. You know, when a person has a positive identity, a positive image, they know that they are valuable, they mean something. This is, in fact, an extraordinarily important. Um, this is extraordinarily important because it gives us a sense of meaning and purpose. And when we have a sense of meaning and purpose, this fills us up with, feeling meaningful and purposeful. So the secret to life is to know that we are actually the whole world wouldn't exist without you. Literally, the entire universe is here. It says that the whole world was created to serve man. The whole world is literally here just for you. You know, God didn't make the stars for the stars. He didn't make the trees for the trees. He made everything just so you should be able to fulfill your purpose in this world. For example, imagine you have an army, and the army has tanks, and it has boats, and it has rockets, it has machine guns, it has everything. But what is it all for? It's all for that the soldiers can win the war, that they can have this equipment. Nothing in this entire universe would exist if not for you. So you have to understand that everything it says that the whole universe was made for me and I was made to serve my creator. Just like the soldier, he is here to serve the king or the general, he's here to serve the army, but yet the whole army is made for him. So we have to understand that this is not a simple story. The world is filled with amazing things. We have a universe, which in this universe, there are 100 billion galaxies. It's extraordinary. In every single galaxy, there's 100 billion stars. Every star has planets. Every planet has moons. It's just unbelievable what's here. And this is the smallest of the universes. Above us, the world of Asiya, spiritual world of Asiya, is infinitely bigger. And the world of Yitzhira is infinitely bigger than that. The world of Bria is infinitely bigger than that. The world of Atzilus is infinitely bigger than that. And all of that is here only so you and I can exist to fulfill our mission in this world. So once we understand this, we understand how important our mission is. And what is our mission? So we know the previous Rebbe, the last mimer that he gave out, he says that the whole goal of this world is what's called Iskafia and Ishapcha. What does this mean? Iskafia means that we have to actually, if you want to call it, break our desires. Every single human being is a composite of 5 different parts. Your highest part is your God part, which is your conscience, your neshama, your sense of right and wrong, your desire for truth. Then you have your mind. The mind is like a computer. Is it good or is it bad? Well, it depends what you use it for. But it's connected to the God part. It's closer to the God part. And then you have your heart. And your heart are your emotions, which is connected to your body. And the body, of course, is based on pain and pleasure. So the body doesn't really think deeply. Does it taste good? Does it not taste good? That's kind of the body. And then you have an ego, the liver. The ego is like, I deserve it. And I just want it because I deserve it. It's not really rational. So you have all these different parts competing with each other. And then we even have a 5th part, which is a Yetzer Hara. Every person, I realized this the other day, every person is like there's a tug of war. There's one side, the side of God, the side of goodness, the side of good people that want us to thrive and to be happy and to do good and make our lives meaningful. That's one side. And the whole universe was created for that side. But in order for us to make our lives meaningful, in order to succeed, you have to be able to fail. So Hashem created a reality, and this reality actually has within it a opposite. Whatever is good, there's an opposite force, an evil force. So just like God and the goodness is trying to get us to be good, there's an opposite force, and that force is trying to get us to be sad and angry and miserable and bad. And so it's a real force. There's a real Yetzer Hara. So a person has to understand that they are going to choose between good and evil. The Rambam says that a person has to imagine that the whole world is 50-50 between good and evil. And if, God forbid, I actually sin, I create that the whole world falls. And if I amazingly do a mitzvah, then I lift up the whole world gets elevated. So it's like a 50-50. So the question is, a very, very simple question. How does a person have so much power? How can a person determine the fate of the world? But the reason is because there's something called DNA. Now, if I said to you this little tiny cell has a lot of power, you might say, tiny cell, you can't even see it. But the DNA makes a massive difference. In fact, the whole body is made out of DNA. Without DNA, you wouldn't exist. So you can have something very, very, very small, but everything is inside. The DNA contains the entire human being is in the DNA. In a similar sense, the entire universe says, Olam Nasan B'Liban. God gave the entire world to each person. So the whole universe exists within you. And if you are going to do the next best thing, especially the difficult thing, especially beating the Yetzer Hara, then you're taking the side of good. It's not only you, you're taking the universe, all the good that exists, and you're squashing the side of evil. And a very good example is a little bit of light that banishes a lot of darkness. So you could say it's just a one candle, but that one candle can light up the room. Everybody can go from darkness to light by lighting one candle, by switching on one switch. Everybody's experience is different. So each and every one of us has to realize we're in a war, and it's a spiritual war. And when we beat our Yetzer Hara, when we beat the Satan and we do good, we bring light into the whole universe, because our universe, every single person is a micro of the macro. The whole big, massive universe comes from each little universe. And this is something that quantum physics has taught us, that the massive world is actually a reflection of the inner world. We all think I'm a tiny person in this big world, but it's the opposite way around. You imagine there's a video game, and the video game is like 3 billion light years across, but it all comes from one computer. It generates it. And then the computer has a programmer. So compared to the computer, the 3 billion light years is nothing, because it's coming from the computer. Compared to the programmer that makes it, it's also nothing. We are, because Hashem gave us this power, the ones that's programming the world. I translated a book of the Baal Shem Tov, and thank you very much for all those that help support it. But this book, when I finished the book, I say the easy part is translating a book. The harder part is actually editing the book, because then you have to edit, and it's so much time and effort. But once you do that, sometimes you get a picture of the whole book. So after I edited the book of the Baal Shem Tov 1 or 2 times, I realized one of the key things Baal Shem Tov is saying is that the world outside of you is a reflection of the world inside of you. And so when we realize this, we realize that we are really soldiers. We are really, in a way, God. We are really Hashem in this world. Because what we are doing is we are manifesting Hashem, manifesting his light. So when Hashem says, listen, I've given you the choice between good and evil, choose good, life and death, it's a very real thing. Because the choices that we make create the result. And this is something that the Shalah HaKadosh says. There's a question. When God mentions a punishment in the Torah, is it like, oh, wow, you did something that made me upset, and therefore I'm going to punish you? Or is the punishment, let's say you go to a doctor, and the doctor says, listen, don't eat this food because it will make you sick. So the question is the food actually a punishment, like the sickness is because you didn't listen to the doctor, or is it a consequence? So the negative that happens in this world is not a punishment. The negative that happens in this world is a consequence. And I remember this person from China, they call it a wise Chinaman, who was a wise person. He told me this great line. He says, what you reap is what you sow. What you put in is what you get out. So when we come into this world and we realize that I can put in love, I can put in goodness, and it will come out. Now, you cannot expect, a lot of people are frustrated. A psychiatrist once told me that most of his clients are actually women, that they feel I give so much to others and I'm not getting it. It's not fair. I'm not getting back equal. But the truth of the matter is that that's not the way it works, because the one that makes it fair is not people. Many people are not fair. Many people, you give to them, they'll like, oh, wow, this is great. What else can I get? That's not where you're going to get the fairness from. You're going to get it from Hashem, because Hashem, God sees what you do. And when God sees that you went out of your way and you helped someone else, He makes sure it's going to come back to you. He's going to reward you, whether in this lifetime, whether in another lifetime, maybe to your children. Like it says, person shouldn't use up all their schusim even in heaven, because maybe they're going to want something for their children. This is the cash of heaven, is the good deeds that we did. So in conclusion, the main point of this class is how to be a soldier of Hashem. And that's what we really discussed. When we realize that we are basically not only a soldier of Hashem, we are basically God, because God empowers us. And a good example is, let's say a man has a company, and the company has many, many employees. And then he says to his son that I would like to give you the company. So now the father invested all of his money in the company. And now whatever the son's going to do is going to affect obviously the company, but also the entire investment of his father. And so therefore Hashem, in a way, He gave us the world. And He's saying, do this, and especially now we're in very difficult times. We're fighting wars on different fronts. And obviously we got a crazy Iran that, God forbid, wants to do bad things. So, I heard yesterday somebody sent out that, there was heavy fighting in Lebanon. They said, say Tehillim. The whole army knows that it's not the guns that are winning the war. It's our mitzvahs. It's our Tehillim. This is what's winning the war. So we have to literally be very, very, we have to give our lives to Hashem. We all have to be soldiers of Hashem. We all have to realize that we are the soldiers of light. And when Hashem sees that we do this, it says even one tzaddik gomer that did proper tshuva could bring Mashiach. What is tshuva? Tshuva means a change. So what is the change that is necessary? It's necessary to have no other desires, like it says in Chassidus. I want nothing but to serve Hashem. That's it. Even those people that by nature we have to love and even give more to, etc., etc. But my fundamental desire, I'm not attached even to my wife and to my children. All the things by nature, a person's primary love and giving is there. But a person has to say, like Avraham Avinu, number one, of course, you have to be a loving and giving person, of course, to your own family first. But number one, we have to be a soldier of Hashem, because only in that can we guarantee that we're going to be doing what's best, not only for our children, not only for ourselves, but for the whole world. And so that's how the person has the power to change the world, because it all depends on how strong our resolve is. When our resolve is very strong, I think it was that the Frierdiker Rebbe said, what is strong resolve? Azay, nicht anders. This is how it's going to be, and it's not going to be in any other way. A healthy person, in fact, has a good resolve. There was a person that once came to Mendel Flittefas. He was a German Jew, and he said to him as follows: if a person, God forbid, loses their money, they haven't lost anything. You can recover money other ways but if a person loses their health, they've lost half. God forbid, a person's crippled. It's not a joke. But if a person loses their resolve, their determination, their drive, they've lost everything. So it's very important. We said the story that I heard this from Rabbi Zilberstein. Rabbi Zilberstein said an amazing story that there was a chassid by the name of Leizer Nanis. Leizer Nanis was a Jew who was in Siberia for 20 years, tried to keep Shabbos there. And in Siberia, which many people don't realize that, we all know about the concentration camps, but people don't know that Stalin, Yamach Shemai V'Zichroi, he was a mass murderer on the scale of Hitler. He killed 50 million people, 50 million, not only Russian citizens. Russia occupied the largest territory. They had taken over many, many countries. And every morning he would wake up and he'd have a list of people to kill. You know what it means to kill 50 million people? It's unbelievable. And how did they kill them? So some people were shot by firing squads, two of my great-grandparents included. But many people were sent to hard labor. Now, what was this hard labor? It was a camp, or like a concentration camp. Very little food. In fact, there's a guy that I learned with every single day. And he went to one of these camps in Hungary. Not Hungary. He was in Czechoslovakia. It was under the communists for being, quote unquote, a Zionist, for being a Jew. And he went to one of these camps. He was there for 3 years of hard labor. He told me he got, let's say, a quarter loaf of bread and maybe like a soup during the day, and that was good. He had other camps that they had less food. And particularly the conditions could have been horrific conditions in Siberia. People were dropping like flies, and you can imagine that it destroyed a person's life. And now what happened was that he saw many people being down, and he remembered a vart. He remembered a teaching, and this teaching was a teaching in Tomchei Temimim. And in this teaching, he was taught that it says, "Kol hamakayim nefesh achas miyisrael ki'ilu kiyam sa'olam malin." Whoever uplifts, not uplifts. Normally, it means whoever saves even one life. At the end of Schindler's List, they have this line: "Whoever saves even one life," it says, if he saved the entire Jewish world. So the idea here is that nefesh can also mean desire. If you can help somebody get their desire for life back, it is also as if you saved the whole world. And so he made a point, even in these terrible conditions, to try to uplift people. And this is a very important thing that we need today. Today, many, many people don't struggle as much. I mean, many people, unfortunately, are struggling financially. And we're helping out people, and thank you for all those that help us help. But the point is that many people, their issues are more emotional. Many people, their issues are that they're lonely. The amount of people that are lonely is extraordinary. We don't even realize how many people literally don't have anyone. I saw the study, 50% of America's a pretty nice country, don't have a single person that they can borrow $100 from. You know what that means? The stress that must put on a person. They don't have anybody that they can rely on. It's very, very difficult what's going on in the world today. In England, they have a minister of loneliness. In fact, they say that loneliness is a greater indicator of death than any other factor. The guy can smoke his whole life, and this loneliness is even worse. So the point is that our ability to make the world a better place simply through smiling at people, through saying hello to people, through taking that extra moment with people is infinite. There was a Russian doctor that came to the Rebbe. In fact, he came to America, and he was depressed because he couldn't get his degree. You can imagine it wasn't easy for him. And he was thinking of committing suicide. And as he was on his way, the Rebbe saw him, and the Rebbe waved to him, and this uplifted him. A simple wave. There's a person, one of the few people that survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. So he thought to himself, if anybody says hello to me, I will not commit suicide. And he's there on the bridge, and I think with some Japanese tourists, they're like, and he was like, oh wow, somebody's going to say hello. And they're like, can you take our picture? So maybe if they would have said hello first, they could have saved this person's life. So the human connection, which is so lacking because in a certain sense, people don't need it as much because people are not as reliant. So people have become more, they say when people have money, what do they buy? They buy privacy. But what does privacy buy? It buys loneliness. So we have to understand that whether a person is wealthy or not wealthy, everybody needs love. Everybody needs recognition. Everybody needs to know that they matter to someone else. And this is a critical thing we all have to undertake to bring Mashiach now. And we do this by realizing that the whole world is in me and I am the whole world. And therefore, if I bring the light into my world, into the space that I am, to the people that I'm in, then I'm literally bringing Mashiach. I remember meeting this guy, very smart guy. He was an older man. My mother kind of noticed him in the newspaper. We went out to visit him. He hadn't put on tefillin in 70 years. He put on tefillin. He says, I'm reborn. It's a very special story. but he tells me, I talked to him about Mashiach. He didn't really have much of a background. So he says, to me, you're the Mashiach. So I said to him, what do you mean? He says, listen, you did me a favor. In other words, it's like, it's interesting, if somebody, let's say, makes somebody religious. So from one person's perspective, it wasn't such a big deal. Whatever, they were there for them. But from another person's perspective, you just change this person's life completely. So we have to understand that we are people that are changing lives, that have the capacity to change lives. So what could be greater than that? And last but not least, it's very important to appreciate the value that we have. The other day, I saw a video of the Rebbe. It was all about saying thank you. And the Rebbe was a person who literally day and night was serving people. So you could say, wow, he must have been stressed out from people. All these people serving the people, all of this stuff. So the truth is, the Rebbe looked at it as a privilege. I could have been chosen by God for anything. I could have been a cockroach. I could have been a tree. I'm a human. I'm a yid. I'm a Rebbe. I'm here to bring light to the world. What could be a greater honor than this? And when a person, let's say a mother, feels that it's an honor to serve her children, to help her children, then you do it b'simcha. L'chaim v'levracha. Are there any questions? Okay. Very good. Yes, thank you so much. What you wrote is very, 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 very good. And yeah, whatever you're writing is really good. Okay, that's great. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real honor to have you. I try to do this class 2:30 every single day. Feel free to subscribe. I was like a little bit off it, but I'm getting back to putting on my podcast on YouTube now. And so, feel free to connect to me. I have a website. I'll put in the website. You can contact me. I'll be in touch with you. All the best, everybody. Hey, Nechama.
Live, washing dishes.